what is a resource in Godot engine. Basically, a resource is just an object, and everything in Godot is an object, right? We're in Godot. I just want to go into any script. Like here's one that's actually an object. Let's go into the documentation. Objects are the baseline of everything in Godot. So you can see that everything comes from an object. Geometry and physics and scripts and resources and themes and everything, anything you can imagine comes from an object. Ref counted is the next step up, and then after that you will find resource here. So you can see up here that a resource comes from a ref counted, which comes from an object. It's pretty much always like that. Everything queues up in a long chain and down to object. So what is an object? Well, it's just some code and some data. Basically, you can think of the data as the export. Do you remember this export command? In 4, it's got an at, and then you say var, and then you carry on with your stuff. That is the data that is saved in a resource. And the code is just the functions and whatever else you get up to. I describe them as little boxes of stuff that can be used by other stuff. So here's your material. It's a little box of stuff. Here's a texture. It's a little box of stuff. And you put the material into a node, and you put the texture into a different node. This is a sprite 2D. This is some kind of mesh. That's all resources are. They're just little boxes of stuff. Classes, like object and all of these other things, resource is a class, are what I call ghost boxes. They're not quite real. They're waiting to happen. For example, here we have a material ghost and a texture ghost. And you do a little bit of voodoo, and you get an actual real instance of a material or a real instance of a texture. This is the basic process of any object-oriented language. These resource boxes can go inside other boxes. For example, if you create a box called fast noise light in Godot, you could put that into a noise texture 2D, which is just another box. It's another resource. And you could put the final resulting noise texture 2D into a sprite node, for example. So boxes can go inside boxes. Really, all this is doing is it's exporting an array, or some kind of a dictionary to hold all the other stuff. And you can make your own boxes. So any script that extends a resource here, you see, and declares some kind of variable and is saved into a file can then produce different instances. Like this one, we set the color to red, this one to green. That's how you use custom scripts, custom resources. It's also important to give them a name. That's very helpful. I'll show you later. You can instance them in the editor, this thing resource that you made. If you right-click in the file system and choose New Resource, then you type in thing here in the Create New dialog, and you hit Create. Because remember, we created thing.gd here. You then find, you save the instance, give it a name, like yellow thing. It's a bit silly, right? You can find it in the file system. You can do a search for it here. If you left click it, you'll see it in the inspector. And here you'll see the color exported, which you can change. And when you save that, it'll save the new color inside that resource. It's a very dumb example because calling it yellow thing and changing the color to red is kind of silly, but there you go. And you can make them in code, not only from the rather complicated this business here where you right-click new resource, search for your resource, save the instance, click on the instance, edit the instance. Whew. You could just use them in code. And somewhere in any script, you say some variable is a thing, which is your class name, .new. And then you could set the property directly in code. And you can save them as well with this funky command, resource saver save. You tell it who to save and you tell it where to save it. So this thing in the memory is going into a file. And you can load them in code as well. So you could say some variable is resource loader load my file. And the other alternative, which is the same, is just the load command. Not much difference unless you get into the details. And basically this takes you from a file into an object, a resource object in memory. So now you could say my thing.color, and so on. And that's it. That's all resources are. Simple, stupid. I hope that helped.